With the total amount of remaining playoff spots running out, who is going to rise to the occasion and come up with a big, huge, season-saving win this week? That's what I'm going to try to answer by giving you guys my predictions. Alright, so we're going to start things off with Thursday Night Football for the New Orleans Saints going to Los Angeles to take on the Rams. Now, I don't know if you guys can tell who I'm going to be taking in this one, but either way, I do think the Rams have a really good chance of winning this one. We'll do a more in-depth dive in this one in the video coming up either later tonight or tomorrow earlier in the morning with my Horns Up video, but either way, the Rams really are just getting hot at the right time. They are the definition of getting good at the right time. The offense is clicking. Kyren Williams is the key to this whole offense, and he has been really giving this team a whole nother spark. So I really don't see anything the Saints have that would stop the Rams necessarily. Unless the Rams have a bad game, it should be all Rams all the way. Up next, we are going to the Saturday games with the Cincinnati Bengals going to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers. This game is going to be potentially a fun one. I could see it being a back-and-forth shootout. Jake Browning and then going up against a quarterback who hasn't had to start in a couple of years. It's been that long since he's had to start, Mason Rudolph. And we'll see what's going to happen here, but I can't shake that feeling. Like, all logic says the Bengals should win this. The Bengals are the better team. The Steelers have been playing god-awful football. But I can't shake that feeling the Steelers managed to find a way to win it. This feels like one of those games that Steeler football will come in and lead the Steelers to a victory. So I am going to take the Steelers on this one, although all logic does point to a Bengals victory. Up next, we're going to Los Angeles again, where the Bills are going to come to town to take on the Chargers. This game is huge for the Bills. The Chargers, their playoff hopes are all but done, and the Bills are just trying to make their way into the playoffs. Right now, I believe they're on the outside looking in, so this win will be huge if they can get it, and they still should get it. The Chargers just fired Brandon Staley. They don't have any sort of sense of direction right now, so realistically, this should be a relatively easy win for the Bills, just like last week was against the Cowboys. Alright, so now we're moving on to the Sunday slate of games, and we're going to start this one off with the Indianapolis Colts going to Atlanta to take on the Falcons. This game is going to be big for both of these teams. The Falcons really on the outside looking in. They got to start winning games if they want to make the playoffs this year, and there's still a legitimate chance they do, but they got to get things together. Arthur Smith's coach is white hot, but I just don't think that the Falcons are going to be good enough. I don't think they're going to have the firepower to do it. I feel like the Colts managed to get a solid win here in Atlanta and really just solidify themselves as bona fide playoff contenders in the AFC. Up next, we're going over to Carolina, where the Packers are coming to town to take on the Panthers. And let's be real here. The Panthers, they had their Super Bowl last week by beating the Falcons. They're not going to win 2 games back-to-back. This team is just not that level of all right. And the Packers, yes, the Packers have been collapsing, but this is their get-right game. Now, granted, they will be on the outside looking in, still more than likely at 7-8, but the Packers should still get a fairly easy win here to save any sort of a semblance of playoff hope that they have. Up next, we're going to Houston, where the Browns are coming to town to take on the Texans. Now, C.J. Stroud is rumored to not be starting this week once again with a concussion injury. So, that being said, I would have taken the Texans if C.J. Stroud plays, no doubt in my mind. And this game is going to be critical for the AFC playoffs. But with C.J. Stroud playing or not playing, I feel like the Browns should get a win. It should be a Browns victory. That's why I'm taking the Browns. But the Texans would not surprise me if they managed to pull off a win, because that's the team they've been. They've played just about everyone close and snuck out with 8 wins thus far. Alright, up next, we're going to Minnesota, where the Vikings are going to be taking on the Lions. This game going to be pivotal, as if the Lions win, then they automatically would clinch the NFC North. Meanwhile, the Vikings are fighting for any semblance of a playoff hope. They have been struggling a little bit recently, and now they're tied with the Rams for the 7th seed and 6th seed. So we'll see what happens out of that, but I do expect the Lions to control the ball, minimize the turnovers, and if they can do that, they should walk away with a relatively easy victory here in Minnesota for Detroit. Up next, we're going to New York, where the Commanders are coming to town to take on the Jets, and this game is going to be potentially a fun one between two teams that have a combined 9 wins this far into the season. It still has the potential to be a very fun game. I really think that the Jets and Commanders are really going to be able to go at each other pretty well. The Commanders have been a good team against bad teams, but the Jets also have that potential to dice up the secondary, and I really feel like they can dice up the secondary very well with Zach Wilson. Not saying Zach Wilson's great, or even Trevor Siemian if they go with him, but just that set of receivers against that secondary is going to be an absolute demolition of the Commanders. So I am going to take the Jets to win this one, despite the fact that our playoff hopes are Zippo. All right, moving on to Tennessee, where the Seahawks are going to be coming to town, trying to get their way into a playoff spot. Now, I personally would love to see the Titans get a win here, but I just feel like the Seahawks are they're going to get a win. I feel like this team is just built too well, especially if Geno plays. He was this close to playing last week. He will play this week, it seems. So I really feel like the Seahawks are going to come out with a vengeance here against Tennessee and manage to pull off a victory. Now, Tennessee could play it close. Will Levis has been looking pretty solid these last few weeks. But I just feel like Seattle is just a way better team, and it's going to be harder to stop that receiving core than what Tennessee can do. All right, moving in now to the 4 o'clock slate of games, and we're going to start off with the Jacksonville Jaguars going to Tampa Bay to take on the Buccaneers. This has game of the week potential here because of the implications. Both of these teams are playing in tight divisions. A single loss could knock them out from the top spot in their division and not hosting a home playoff game. Both of these teams, if they lose, would also be in the running for a wild card spot as well, even if they lose, potentially. So this game is absolutely critical for both of these teams. And that being said, I just feel like the way the Jags have been playing, and the fact that Trevor Lawrence is still going to be dealing with that high ankle sprain, and he hasn't been looking the same since then, and he's been dealing with that arm injury on Sunday night it was, or Monday or whatever it was. Really just not looking great for the Jaguars, and I feel like the Buccaneers are just getting hot at the right time, not to make a lot of noise, but, to make a playoff spot and maybe cause an upset or two. So I am going to take the Buccaneers on this one, and I expect it to be a very close game, though. All right, moving into Chicago, where the Arizona Cardinals will be coming to town to take on the Bears. Now, the Bears have been looking pretty good recently. They haven't been getting enough wins, but they've been looking really good recently. Arizona's been eliminated from the playoffs, so that being said, I do think that the Bears will come in and get themselves a fairly solid win and potentially a season-saving win right there. They need to start winning out if they want to make the playoffs, and this is their chance. Up next, we're going over to Miami, where the Cowboys are coming to town to take on the Dolphins, and let's just be real here. This is going to be a fun game, because Miami collapses against good teams. The Cowboys, though, don't have a run defense against the Dolphins' run defense. That's a scary thought. Or against the Dolphins' run, I should say, not the run defense. But I do feel like the Cowboys get a big win. Miami, I feel like, will just completely collapse under the weight of this game, as they always do against teams that are above 500. So ultimately, I do think that the Cowboys will get a win here, and it could be a very big win and get out of hand quick for Miami. All right, moving on to Sunday Night Football, we have the New England Patriots going to Denver to take on the Broncos. This game going to be a potentially fun one here. It's not going to be the greatest, but it could be a little fun one, especially because Denver, sitting on the outside looking in from the playoffs, trying to salvage that spot to maybe make the playoffs. So I really think that the Broncos could make some noise here. The Patriots, their defense could potentially hold strong and allow the Broncos to not get a lot of points. But I just feel like the Broncos will do more than enough to win. The defense will hold Mac Jones or Bailey Zappi or whoever starts for that team. And the Broncos should get a solid win. All right, now moving on to the Christmas Day games, we're going to start off with the Las Vegas Raiders going to Kansas City to take on the Chiefs. Now, let's be real here. Yeah, the Chiefs have been struggling. Yes, the Raiders can still win the AFC West if I don't throw my pen. But I just feel like the Chiefs are just a way better team. The Raiders had their big win last week. They're not going to have another big win back-to-back weeks. They're not that kind of a team. So I do think the Chiefs get themselves a pretty healthy win here and all but secure the AFC West. All right, now we're going over to Philadelphia for Eagles-Giants, and this game is going to be a big get-right game for the Eagles if they play their cards right. Philadelphia right now has been in a bit of a skid. They were 10-1 just 3 weeks ago. Then they played San Francisco. Then they played Dallas. Then they lost embarrassingly to Seattle on Monday Night Football. So there are some question marks. But ultimately, the Eagles should pull off a fairly big win here, I would expect, because they need to get right if they want to ensure that they can try and win that NFC East. And last but not least, we have the game of the week. The Baltimore Ravens going to Santa Clara to take on the Niners. Oh boy, this is going to be a fun one to watch, won't it? I mean, the Ravens offense has been electric, although they are losing Keaton Mitchell for the rest of the season. The Niners being just all-out dominant all over the place. Now, I really it doesn't matter to me what happens because the Niners are going to get the 1 seed no matter what happens. So ultimately, I feel like this game is going to be big for the 1 seed implications for both teams. I don't have a preference, even though I despise the Niners. But I am going to take the Niners to win. I just feel like they are the better built team. I feel like the Niners are just the best built team in the league right now, and it's going to be tough to stop them in the regular season. Playoffs is a whole other situation, especially when you look at the Rams, because the Rams own the Niners in the playoffs. But either way, I digress. I feel like the Niners get themselves a big win here. Alright, well that's about going to do it for me today. If you guys did like, don't forget to smash like and subscribe, as it does help me out a whole lot. It tells me that I'm making content that you guys enjoy. And if you haven't already, make sure you go ahead and check out my tier list update for after week 15 down here for my playoff chances and predictions. And with that, I will see you guys later. Peace out and have a good one.